Neville Goddard, Prayer, The Art of Believing, Chapter 3, Imagination and Faith. We're picking up speed. Prayers are not successfully made unless there is a rapport between the conscious and subconscious mind of the operator. This is done through imagination and faith. All right, remember that we laid out, I am all that is, God, right here. These are our self-concepts. Some self-concepts we are in and we want to be in a different one. Within each self-concept, we have a conscious and a subconscious. We're going to use the symbols positive and negative to display that. There's our conscious and there's our subconscious. Our masculine and our feminine, active and passive, male and female. The perfect couple, perfect marriage. It's within each of us. Each of us has that within. Very first sentence right here, Imagination and Faith, Chapter 3. Prayers are not successfully made unless there is rapport between the conscious and subconscious mind of the operator. This is done through imagination and faith. Where does imagination exist? Right here. What do you have to do to access it? You close off the senses. You go into your I am. You right now, that quick, are in imagination. Look at any child. Look at any child waking up and going about their day. They are in imagination instantly. By the power of imagination, all men, certainly men, are forever casting forth enchantments. Excuse me, left out a word. By the power of imagination, all men, certainly imaginative men, are forever casting forth enchantments. And all men, especially unimaginative men, are continually passing under their power. Very, very, very important concept right here. And this book is getting really good. The last two chapters we just did, there was so much more depth in them. We could have stopped and made those videos at least an hour or two each because they have so much depth. And right here, we'll try and unpack a little bit more here. By the power of imagination, all men, certainly imaginative men, are forever casting forth enchantments, and all men, especially unimaginative men, are continually passing under their power. If you remember in the previous chapter, I believe it was, since we all do have an active and a passive, that means we all have a conscious and a subconscious. So we learned in that last chapter that all subconsciouses are connected together because that is how we are wired. I and my Father are one, but my Father is greater than I. The conscious and the subconscious are one, but the subconscious is greater than the conscious. And we also learned that whatever we impress our subconscious with, as far as, let's say we have an opinion or an idea or a concept of another person, and they accept or don't accept that idea we have of them, that idea still connects automatically into consciousness, which is automatically, instantly in the network. That network we are tied to. The concept that I learned from Neville was that if you're not using your imagination, someone else is. Okay? If you're not using your imagination, someone else is. Who is that someone else? Is it the news? Is it the commercial on TV that says you need to get a certain thing to be better? Whatever that thing is. I'm not even going to name names, but you know what I'm talking about. If you're not using your imagination, someone else is. If you're not putting to use what you conceive and believe, and then you achieve, which is what we've been talking about this whole time, then someone else is. So if you're not impressing your subconscious with new ideas about your ascension into new concepts of self, then this is basically a vacant space. And what is that vacant space filled with? Your subconscious. What is that filled with? It's filled with other men's ideas, other men's imaginations. That goes and fills the network, finds an empty spot here. This person's imagining for themselves, and this person's imagining for themselves, and you are not. You are not, this person's not, and this person's not. Well, this imaginative person here that puts ideas into the network gets picked up where the space is available. Where these people are using their imagination and doing their own thing, it's not picked up. But it is picked up here, here, and here. This is you. not using your imagination. You're picking up other people's beliefs, other people's ideas. Very, very important sentence right there. By the power of imagination, all men, certainly imaginative men, are forever casting forth enchantments. And all men, especially unimaginative men, are continually passing under their power. Can we ever be certain that it was not our mother, while darning our socks, who began subtle change in our minds? Who began that subtle change in our minds? And we do imagine that she did so with a positive cast, a positive enchantment. But you can see there's worry in the world, and if there's worry, that can be that kind of enchantment. There's a story of Neville being his hair being brushed by his mother. I believe she was a blonde lady, and he had blonde hair as a little boy. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that was what I got out of this lecture. And she was, of course, 9 boys and a girl. She was brushing his hair and telling him how he was her favorite, and how he was going to do great things, etc. And he did not learn it till way later in life that his brother also was told the same thing by his mother, which I think is wonderful. It really defines what we're talking about. If I can unintentionally cast an enchantment over persons, there is no reason to doubt that I am able to cast intentionally a far stronger enchantment. Everything that can be seen, enchantment. And you ever seen smokers gather together, people who smoke, who happen to not be smoking, and one person lights up a cigarette, and all of a sudden the other people that are non-smokers, they get that enchantment. They've opened their pack of cigarettes, and they put their cigarette, and they light it, and it's just like an infectious wave. There's words for that now, like triggering, whatever. These things can come through the TV, they can come through whatever, but if someone has the inclination, they will be influenced. If I can unintentionally cast an enchantment over persons, there's no reason to doubt that I am able to cast intentionally a far stronger enchantment. Everything that can be seen, touched, explained, argued over is to the imaginative man nothing more than a means, for he functions by reason of his controlled imagination in the deep of himself, where every idea exists in itself and not in relation to something else. In him, there is no need for the restraints of reason, for the only restraint he can obey is the mysterious instinct that teaches him to eliminate all moods other than the mood of fulfilled desire. Imagination and faith are the only faculties of mind needed to create objective conditions. Imagination and faith are the only conditions of mind. Boom, you're influencing, you're impressing your subconscious. The only faculties of mind needed to create objective conditions. Once you impress that subconscious, objective conditions prevail. Objectification of your desire. It just happens. You're not to be concerned with how. He has ways past finding out. The faith required for the successful operation of the law of consciousness is a purely subjective faith, and is attainable upon the cessation of active opposition on the part of the objective mind of the operator. Okay, let's try and break that down, because it sounds heavy, but it really isn't. The faith required for the successful operation of the law of consciousness, meaning making an impression in your subconscious, the faith required, imagination and faith, the faith required is purely subjective faith. That means the faith to impress your subjective consciousness. All it is the faith necessary to make that impression upon your own subjective consciousness. It's attainable upon the cessation of active opposition on the part of the objective mind of the operator. You don't doubt. The cessation means the stopping of any actively opposing idea on the part of the objective mind. The objective mind, here's the objectification, here's the subjective. The objective mind, any opposition on the part of the objective. So here's your current self-concept. Your objective mind, does it have opposition to an idea, or does Does it have everything in support of a new idea? If everything is in support of the new idea, then there's definitely been a cessation of active opposition. Since there has been a cessation of active opposition, meaning the influence of the idea, which can be also in that network, everybody says you can't do something. If you do not pay attention to that, you don't have opposition to this new idea. If you, with your own energy, put that impression upon your subconscious because you don't care what the world thinks. You don't care what's going on out here. I am happily married. I am wealthy. I am healthy. I don't care. I don't care what the network has. I don't care what the TV says. I don't care what the newspaper says. I don't care what my friends say. I don't care what my parents say. I don't care what my kids say. I have this idea, and it is in me to make objective, to objectify in my life. I don't let my imagination be under the spell or enchantment of whatever's out there, because it's in here that is where this is coming from anyway. The desire's coming from Him within you to solve the problem of your limitation of your desire that's in you that you want. And that desire can be anything. Health, wealth, wisdom, love, marriage, family. It could be freedom. It could be anything. That is within you for a reason. The faith required for the successful operation of the law of consciousness is a purely subjective faith and is attainable upon the cessation of active opposition on the part of the objective mind of the operator. We just went over that. It depends upon your ability to feel and accept as true what your objective senses deny. Your objective senses, this is your objective self, what those senses are seeing, what's in the world. Neither the passivity of the subject nor his conscious agreement with your suggestion is necessary. Neither the passivity of the subject nor his conscious agreement with your suggestion is necessary, for without his consent or knowledge, he can be given a subjective order which he must objectively express. I believe that's like you're imagining lovingly for another. You have a friend who has a desire for a new job, as an example, and you persuade yourself that he has successfully called you and told you about that new job. The passivity of the subject nor his conscious agreement with your suggestion is necessary, for without his consent or knowledge, he can be given a subjective order which he must objectively express. He'll get that order because you are impressing your subconscious. It affects his subconscious. He'll get that order. It'll go into, and it'll be an objectification of his reality. He does not have to be conscious of that, he or she. It's a fundamental law of consciousness that by telepathy we can have immediate communion with another. Immediate, instant. To establish rapport, you call the subject mentally. Focus your attention on him and mentally shout his name just as you would to attract the attention of anyone. Focus your attention on him and mentally shout his name just as you would to attract the attention of anyone. So go in. Okay, I just did it. I'm going to let you know later. I have a friend, I believe, that will call me or text me today. Now, in my now. All right? So do this. Mentally shout his name just as you would to attract the attention of anyone. Imagine that he has answered. And mentally hear his voice. Okay, so I'm doing that now. Okay. Represent him to yourself inwardly in the state you want him to obtain. Then imagine that he is telling you in the tones of ordinary conversation what you want to hear. And this is, okay, I'm going to switch friends. Now that one I want to just to call me. Now I'm going to go to a different friend, and I'm going to go ahead and have him call me and tell me about his new job. Because I know he's looking right now, and I know he's impending to get one immediately. Okay, so I've got that call in. So I've got 2 calls out right now. Mentally answer him. Okay, let me finish that. Okay, I just high-fived him. I said, hey, man, that's great news. Congratulations. I just high-fived him mentally, all right? Tell him of your joy in witnessing his good fortune. I just did that. I said congratulations, and I high-fived him. Having mentally heard with all the distinctness of reality that which you wanted to hear, and having thrilled to the news heard, return to objective consciousness, which is what I did when I opened my eyes and I stopped covering my eyes. Your subjective conversation must awaken what is affirmed. Affirmed meaning that exact conversation that I had. And without fail, anytime I've done this, I get the phone call and I hear the exact words that I imagined right there, which you will too. You just need to stop and try it. Thou shalt decree a thing, and it shall be established unto thee. It is not a strong will that sends the subjective word on its mission, so much as it is clear thinking and feeling the truth of the state affirmed. I'm not willing it, I am just hearing it. It is clear thinking and feeling, because I can feel his voice, that vibration of sound. I can feel that when I hear that. When belief and will are in conflict, belief invariably wins. Not by might nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord of hosts. It is not what you want that you attract. You attract what you believe to be true. Therefore, get into the spirit of these same mental conversations and give them the same degree of reality that you would a telephone conversation. If thou canst believe, all things are possible to him that believeth. If thou canst believe, all things are possible to him that believeth. If you cannot believe, then all things are possible to he that can believe. Therefore I say unto you, that things soever ye desire when ye pray, believe that ye have received them, and ye shall have them. The acceptance of the end wills the means. Never could be a more powerful sentence. The acceptance of the end, when you're here and you're accepting the end, it wills the means, which you never have to be concerned about. I mean, think about how much work you do not have to do just because you accept the end. I am that. I am married, I am. I am wealthy, I am. I am healthy, I am. You don't have to do any work. What a relief that is. You don't have to do anything to have the objectification except have the faith and the imagination. That's it. You don't have to do anything. In my Father's house are many mansions. The acceptance of the end wills the means. The acceptance of the end wills the means. How wonderful of a sentence is that? And the wisest reflection could not devise more effective means than those which are willed by the acceptance of the end. My goodness. The acceptance of the end. Mentally talk to your friends as though your desires for them were already realized. So when I went into my thing, my my closet, and I shut the door and I imagined my friend calling me, I talked to him as though my desires for them were already realized, because they were telling me that was my desire for them realized by them confirming it, by telling me. Imagination is the beginning of the growth of all forms, and faith is the substance out of which they are formed. This is the main poignant part of this paragraph, of this chapter. Imagination is the beginning of the growth of all forms, and faith is the substance out of which they are formed. Goodness me. By imagination, that which exists in latency or is asleep within the deep of consciousness is awakened and is given a form. Oh, another powerful, powerful sentence. By imagination, that which exists in latency or is asleep within the deep of consciousness. Right there, that's consciousness. That's all consciousness. Consciousness, that's I am, all that is, God, Jesus Christ, Buddha, anything, divinity, all of it. That is where everything is latent. All of his creations are done. So all you're doing is awakening which latency is asleep within the deep of consciousness, and it's given a form. You make the impression upon your subconscious, you marry the conscious and subconscious, but with that impression, form is given to by him. This is where all realities exist. All his creations are done. So then you objectify and occupy your new reality. I am that I am. I am married. I am. I'm happily in love. I am. I am wealthy. I am. I am healthy. I am. I am free. I am. Just what we've read so far, knowing you don't have to do any work except for imagine. And then how much work does that take? And faith, again, you have been doing this so successfully every single day. We're just awakening to the conscious use of this tool. It is already what you're using, or you wouldn't even be watching this video. You couldn't watch the video. You're already doing it. We're just changing our focus. The cures attributed to the influence of certain medicines, relics, and places are the effects of imagination and faith. The curative power is not in the spirit that is in them. It is in the spirit in which they are accepted. The letter killeth, but the spirit giveth life. The subjective mind is completely controlled by suggestion. So whether the object of your faith be true or false, you will get the same results. Never could be truer. The subjective mind is completely controlled by suggestion. You make the suggestion on the subjective mind, your subconscious mind. You make the suggestion. Whether the object of your faith be true or false, you will get the same results. So it doesn't matter what you suggest to your subjective self or your subjective conscious self, it is going to be true of your experience. It doesn't matter. You want rich? Do you want poor? Do you want single or do you want married? Do you want healthy or unhealthy? Whatever you influence your subjective self with is what is going to objectify. There is nothing unsound in the theory of medicine or in the claims of the priesthood for their relics and holy places. The subjective mind of the patient accepts the suggestion of health conditioned on such states, and as soon as these conditions are met, proceeds to realize health. That's why placebos are so effective. Placebos, why is it a person is all of a sudden healed with a placebo? For exactly what he's saying right here. According to your faith, be it done unto you, for all things are possible to him that believeth. Confident expectation of a state is the most potent means of bringing it about. The confident expectation of a cure does that which no medical treatment can accomplish. The confident expectation of a cure does that which no medical treatment can accomplish. Man, oh man. That's all it takes. Failure is always due to an antagonistic autosuggestion by the patient, arising from objective doubt of the power of medicine or relic, or from doubt of the truth of the theory. Many of us, either from too little emotion or too little intellect, both of which are stumbling blocks in the way of prayer, cannot believe that which our senses deny. Your senses are denying I am healthy. If you're in this effect of ill health and the doctor's telling you this, that, and the other all day, up one side and down the other, about what's happening within you, but you choose to try and become imaginative about your health and make an impact on your subconscious, but you see the reports, you see the paperwork, you see the x-ray, you see all these medicines prescribed to you, you see all that the world says about that ailment, and you believe that that has more power than your own imagination and your own faith. That's where you've looked out here too much. You've put your power where your power isn't. Your power can't be applied out here. Your power can only be applied in here. You must have imagination and faith to make that subjective impression, to make the influence over your subconscious, no matter what the world is telling you, no matter what the facts say. If you want to objectify your health, this is what you must do. Many of us, either from too little emotion or too much intellect typically, right? Both of which are stumbling blocks in the way of prayer, cannot believe that which our senses deny. To force ourselves to believe will end in greater doubt. To avoid such counter-suggestions, the patient should be unaware, objectively, of the suggestions which are made to him. The most effective method of healing or influencing the behavior of others consists in what is known as the silent or absent treatment. The most effective method of healing or influencing the behavior of others consists what is known as the silent or absent treatment. When the subject is unaware objectively of the suggestion given him, there is no possibility of him setting up an antagonistic belief. If your friend's telling you he wants a new opportunity and you're listening to that and you go, oh, okay, now I know how to aim my prayer. Now I know exactly what my prayer needs to have in it. If you share with him, I'm going to say a prayer for you, blah, 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 and you're going to let me know if this happens, then you're setting up within him also an opposition to what you're going to pray for him. Because he has the option to say, I don't believe that that's going to work. I don't see how that's going to work. I doubt this, my friend, has the power to do that. You're going to put opposition where there shouldn't be any. That's why the silent or absent treatment is necessary. Because you do the prayer within your closet, the door's closed. He that heareth also in secret, openly rewarded. When the subject is unaware objectively of the suggestion given him, there is no possibility of him setting up an antagonistic belief. It is not necessary that the patient know objectively that anything is being done for him. From what is known of the subjective and objective process of reasoning, it's better that he should not know objectively of that which is being done for him. I mean, it sounds obvious. It seems obvious. When you try it, you'll see how obvious it becomes. You'll see with the phone call telling you in your ear exactly what you prayed for of them without their consent. You'll hear it and it will confirm 1,000 times percent, 1,000,000%, 1,000 times whatever. It will be confirmation and you won't need more proof. You just won't. The more completely the objective mind is kept in ignorance of the suggestion, the better will be subjective mind perform its functions. The better will the subjective mind perform its functions. Repeating the sentence. The more completely the objective mind is kept in ignorance of the suggestion, the better will the subjective mind perform its functions. So we don't let my friend, his objective self, know anything of what we're doing. We do this subjectively. We impress our subconscious of hearing the good news of our friend telling us on the phone what happened. His subconscious picks it up. The objective mind has nothing, nowhere, need at all to be involved with this. The subject subconsciously accepts the suggestion and thinks he originates it. It's very fascinating because you'll see things and you'll see people do things and to them, it's as if the idea is totally original. And you might want to refer to the movie Inception at this point because it really is along those lines. Inception as a movie is a wonderful movie, and it really does cross this territory, and it is fascinating in the way it does it. But you'll see people think it's completely their idea, and you just have to smile. And you should just smile because you don't have anything to prove. This is not about your ego. This is about seeing this exercise work and get this into your own practice. The subject subconsciously accepts the suggestion and thinks he originates it, proving the truth of Spinoza's dictum that we know not the causes that determine our actions. The mother darning the socks. The subconscious mind is the universal conductor which the operator modifies with his thoughts and feelings. Visible states are either the vibratory effects of subconscious vibrations within you, or they are vibratory causes of corresponding vibrations within you. Visible states are either the vibratory effects of subconscious vibrations within you, or they are the vibratory causes of corresponding vibrations within you. A disciplined man never permits them to be causes unless they awaken in him desirable states of consciousness. That's a disciplined man, which is what we all are striving to be with this knowledge. With the knowledge of the law of reversibility, the disciplined man transforms his world by imagining and feeling only what is lovely and of good rapport. Most wonderful sentence, and you've heard Neville say it 1,000 times if you've heard his lectures. With the knowledge of the law of reversibility, the disciplined man transforms his world by imagining and feeling only what is lovely and of good rapport. The beautiful idea he awakens within himself shall not fail to arouse its affinity in others. It's a vibratory concept right there, because if you're vibrating to a certain pitch, others around you will pick that up. It's like a resonance. There's a frequency picked up. He knows the Savior of the world is not a man, but the manifestation that would save. The sick man's Savior is health. The hungry man's Savior is food. The thirsty man's Savior is water. He walks in the company of the Savior by assuming the feeling of his wish fulfilled. Oh man, powerful sentences in this chapter. That one is it, man. I mean, those few sentences right there. He walks in the company of the Savior by assuming the feeling of his wish fulfilled. You're not just a victim of yourself, you're the savior of yourself. You feel and sense problems or challenges to be what you're a victim of, whatever that is, but in actuality, you're also the savior, because the desire within you is what would save you from the problem or limitation. And if it's the impression that you need to put into your subconscious, then you must do that. No one's going to do this for you. Until you practice this understanding, no one's going to step in and do it for you. Don't get me wrong, you might have a friend here or there, and you feel lucky, that does this, but that's very rare. And nor is the line standing up at Neville's lectern or podium there available today for you to go to a lecture and wait and stand in line and get your imagination by him. But you can do that for yourself now that you know this. You don't need Neville. You don't need anybody else. You just need to understand what's happening here. He walks in the company of the Savior by assuming the feeling of his wish fulfilled means that your problem has a Savior, and it's you that provide that, and it's by him giving you desire. That desire and urge is what you impress the subconscious with, which this is your Savior, because the objectification of it is what solves the dilemma. You are the Savior. By the laws of reversibility, that all transformation of force are reversible, the energy of feeling awakened transforms itself into the state imagined. He never waits 4 months for the harvest. If in 4 months the harvest will awaken in him a state of joy, then inversely, the joy of harvest now will awaken the harvest now. Now is the acceptable time to give beauty for ashes, joy for mourning, praise for the spirit of heaviness, that they might be called trees of righteousness, the planting of the Lord, that he might be glorified. Let me repeat that quote. It is a quote. Now is the acceptable time to give beauty for ashes, joy for mourning, mourning, praise for the spirit of heaviness, that they might be called trees of righteousness, the planting of the Lord, that he might be glorified. What a wonderful chapter. Imagination and faith. I don't know what your favorite part was, but there's some goodies in here. Oh my gosh, there's so many good ones. I really can appreciate the using your own imagination, or someone else with an imagination is going to use your imagination. That's one very big point that I can totally appreciate. If you're not using your imagination, which means basically you're not making an impression on your subconscious, and this is basically an empty space, let's just say that that's an empty space, and someone else who is using their imagination, who has filled that space, because this is a negative and they filled that space with an idea, you're going to pick up that idea. And you're not going to do it consciously. You're going to assume it's true. You're even going to assume it's your idea, because you're not using your imagination. That is one of my favorite parts of this chapter, and it's one of my favorite parts of all the material. It means you need to be actively engaged in making the impression into your subconscious. You need to be actively engaged and claim that which is yours. No matter what's going on over there, this might try to come your way, but since you're actively engaged, then you've made that union. You've made this union. You've bonded your male and female self, your father and your mother within you. Your womb is now active with your imagination. It's your idea that takes shape. It's your idea that is conceived. And your idea goes through the Father and becomes an objective reality. But it's you that have the power. you leave this space vacant, and it's going to be open to anybody with a more positive use of their imagination. Positive meaning they're just using it. Now you can, I'm not saying that somebody else is choosing where you're going to eat lunch at on purpose, but that is even an example of it. If you let someone else choose where you're going to eat lunch, it's the same idea here. So you can practice this, and you don't have to argue about where you're going for lunch with when you have a party of 2 people or 4 people. You can actually just focus on it before you know that that time of day is coming. Practice it. Say, I see we're going to be going to Italian food. And then imagine yourself eating that Italian food. Imagine you and your partner being happily after eating that Italian food. Then when you get together in that twosome or foursome, and it ends up being Italian food, you know whose imagination prevailed. And you know whose other imaginations were vacant. And all you did was actively put into your imagination with your subconscious that feeling of at the end of the meal. That's all you did. Wow, what a wonderful chapter. Wow, that's a good one. Prayer, the Art of Believing, Chapter 3, Imagination and Faith. All right, we'll see you in the next video.